In today's Speedy Summer Crafts, we're going to take this bubbles bottle and some vinyl to create this New Year's Eve bubbles bottle. Let's make this! Across the internet, there's lots of different ways that you can personalize wine bottles, and I think this is a really great way to gift someone something without it being over the top, without it giving them something that, they're not going to use again. So the wine bottle bags are beautiful, but what do you do with them afterwards? So I think customizing a wine bottle or a champagne bottle at New Year's Eve is a fantastic way of just taking something to a party that gives a little bit of a different take on, oh, here you go, here's a bottle of wine. It actually becomes, here's a bottle of wine that I thoughtfully created for you. So this can be used in a number of different ways. There's obviously lots of ways you can use it for weddings, birthdays, Christmas, and of course New Year's Eve. I'm going to start today's tutorial by showing you how to use a website called Wordmark. Wordmark allows you to scroll through all of the fonts that you already have on your computer or on your laptop. So it essentially is able to check out the list of fonts. So all of the ones that we might have downloaded from 1001 Fonts, all the ones that are normally on your computer, wherever you've downloaded fonts from, and you're able to scroll through and find the ones that would be best suited to your project. Now, yes, you can do this through Design Space, but to do that through Design Space, you've got to click on each font to see how that works. This, with Wordmark, you can actually put the text that you want. I've started with 2025 and I've found a font, which I chose was Cheetown. And then I have then typed in Happy New Year, and you can see that I've been able to scroll through all of the different fonts I have available to me. And then I can very quickly, once I'm in Design Space, I can just choose those ones. So I've chosen, as I said, Cheetown for 2025, and then Qtile Monoline for Happy New Year. Then I'm going to use Google Images to find some different decorations. So I'm going to do some text, which is going to be Happy New Year 2025, but I also want to have some stars on there. So I've done a Black Star Bunting clip art, and I've saved that image, and you can see there it's a string of stars. And then I've also looked for bubbles. Now, I looked in Design Space. There's no great bubbles in there for this project if you're using the only the free images. So I've just done the same thing on Google Images. And if you wanted to go back and have a look at the Witchy Cupcake Toppers tutorial, I'll show you how to download the Google Images and upload them into Design Space in a bit more detail. You can see there that I have saved them as .png files. So make sure that when you are saving them that you are doing that, because if you save them as a .avif and a .webd, I think that is, they won't be able to be opened in Design Space. So make sure you change them to .png files. Now that I'm back in Design Space, I've started a new project, and I'm going to start by creating our 2025 Happy New Year component. So I've got a shape, and it's a square shape, and I've changed the size to 7 centimeters wide and 13 centimeters tall. And I'm going to start by putting the 2025. Now, because we went through Wordmark earlier, I know that I want the Cheetown or Chi-town, and I'm just going to turn it on its side. Now, I want the number 2025 to go down from top to bottom. So I've rotated on a 90-degree angle, and I want it to be quite large, but it doesn't need to fill up that whole rectangle, because now I've got my Happy New Year. And I'm going to use the Qtile Monoline font for that. And I'm going to place it across the top of the 2025. Now I want it to overlap a little bit. And I'm going to use a offset. And then when I use this offset, I'm actually then going to cut or slice that offset out of 2025. The reason I want to do that is so that it makes the Happy New Year stand out against the 2025 because we will now have a little outline around where that Happy New Year will fit. And if you want to see how to do that a little bit more detail, go back and have a look at my French stripe bookmark tutorial, and it goes through how to slice and remove offsets in a lot more detail than our speedy summer session. Once I have done the slice offset, I've now added another offset to the Happy New Year. The reason I've done that is just to provide that little bit extra pop so that I've got the text Happy New Year and then I'm going to have a metallic outline. So the word Happy New Year is going to be in black and then I'm going to do a metallic outline of the Happy New Year. So it will mean that it will make it stand out and we'll be able to see the words Happy New Year quite easily. My next step is to create the neck of the bottle because I'm going to place some stars, my star bunting, all the way along that neck of the bottle. So I did a little bit of measuring and I've worked out that the neck is about 10 centimeters high and the bottom of that is 8 centimeters wide. So I've unlocked the size of my triangle. I've rotated it 180 degrees, so it's up the other way. And then I have changed the size to 10 tall and 8 wide. And now it's just a matter of uploading my images. So I'm going to start with the bubbles. So I just click on upload. I drag the bubbles in and then using the select tool, I can just delete any of the background. And I've also made sure that I've deleted the little bit that gives that highlight. So it actually looks a bit more like a bubble rather than just a circle. And then I'm going to place them around the Happy New Year on the Happy New Year text area. I do eventually cut more than one lot of these or one panel of these, just so then I can place them around the bottle and you'll see later on as I do that. When I upload those stars, I'm only going to delete the background. I'm not going to delete the internal components of the stars because I found that when I deleted the internal components of those stars, it was too thin and I think I'm going to have trouble trying to get it off the vinyl and weed that. So instead, I left the stars as whole pieces and then we've just got our line of the bunting string, I guess. That will be the only thin component, so it should work pretty well. Once they've been uploaded into Design Space, then it's just a matter of duplicating them and resizing them so they fit along this triangle. Now, the triangle is just a guide. It's not going to be perfect, but it does mean that it gives me an idea of how much I should change the size of it so that it fits nicely along this neck that is gradually getting thinner as the bottle increases in its height. So I'm going to do 3 sets of stars and then I need to delete the rectangle and I also need to delete the triangle before I go to make. And then once you've hit make, it's just a matter of positioning. So to start off with, I had 3 different mats, but I am just using essentially all metallic vinyl. So I'm just moving them all to the same mat. So I just click on those 3 dots, click move object, and I've moved them all onto the black mat. So then I can just do one cut rather than 3 different mats. I weeded this on the mat. The reason I weeded it on the mat is because I wanted it to stay sucked down. I've got quite little components on a lot of this. So by keeping it on the mat, it kind of kept a little bit of it it kept the backing stuck down a little bit better, so it didn't move around and slide around. So that's something you can do if you're having a little bit of trouble trying to weed. After trying to weed the word Happy New Year, I found it was way too thin. I couldn't weed it even if I did a reverse weed. So what I did is I went back into Design Space and I created an offset of the text Happy New Year, but that offset was only a 0.02 offset, which meant that the text got a little bit thicker, but it still maintained its integrity, I guess, is probably the best way to describe it. It kept the words legible and it showed the A and the P's with actual holes inside those little circles, but it's a little bit thicker and was a little bit easier to weed. So I didn't realize that you could get so low in your offsets, but I got down to 0.02 to do that. And that's a little trick you can use if you are finding that you really love a font, but it's a really thin font. So go back and you can actually do a little offset, and then all you do is you cut the offset. You don't cut the actual text, you cut the offset that you created rather than the text. So I'm just using a hairdryer here to help remove the label from my bottle. So what the hairdryer does, it actually heats up the glue that's holding the sticker down on your bottle. This is a trick you can use also on vinyl. If you put vinyl down on something like glass or on plastic and you want to get it off, you can use a hairdryer and it will help remove that vinyl if you're having a little bit of trouble or it's really stuck down. It didn't work as well on the collar component, but you can see that the label worked really well, but it's just a matter of patience. So, and then after that, I just used some eucalyptus oil. Eucalyptus oil just gets rid of everything. So I've used eucalyptus oil on the bottle to get rid of all of the sticky stuff, and then use some alcohol rub just to do a final clean of it before I put the vinyl down. Now, when I put the vinyl down, I did this in layers. So I start with the 2025 and I put that down first. I wasn't sure whether or not I would need the wet method to do this. I tried both and I found that it didn't really make a difference. You can use the wet method, obviously, and it's probably the best method to use. And if you go back to my plant markers tutorial, I go into a bit more detail about why the wet method is a really useful one. But for this project in particular, I've found that it didn't need it, and I'm not sure if it's just the vinyl that I used or what. So I'm not going to guarantee that it won't happen to you. So for your best bet, I would use the wet method. So I did the 2025, then I did the offset of the Happy New Year. Now you can see that there is a gap around the Happy New Year, between the Happy New Year and the 2025, and that was what we designed in Design Space. If you wanted to, you can design it so that the offset and the 2025 touch perfectly, but I chose not to do that for this project. Then I've put the text over there. You can see how the text is still legible there, even though I had some issues with the font before I did the extra offset. And then I placed those stars and the bubbles around. So again, this is up to you how you want to do your placement. I eyeballed the stars. I just put the bubbles around. I cut them up rather than putting them in their exact lines the whole way. It's just a matter of playing around. And I think it's created a beautiful gift that you can take to a New Year party and a little way of just making your host feel a little bit special. And hasn't this created such a beautiful bottle? What a thoughtful gift to give to your host at your next New Year's Eve party. I hope you've had a great 2024 and I'm looking forward to crafting again in 2025. Happy New Year! Thanks for watching. Please don't forget, you can always jump on my Instagram, head over to my Etsy store, or even check out the videos YouTube recommends for you down below.